good afternoon, possums. Yes, it is I, the conspicuous moo. And I'm sorry I've been away for a bit. I was painting the house. Legitimate excuse, with a very, very bald man. Probably the baldest man in the entire world. But, yeah, that's 95% finished now. I've got one room left to do, and I'm not going to do it because I can't be bothered, so here I am. And, so we've got a little bit of catching up to do. So let's get cracking. So, here we are, 7 weeks in, Shadowlands. What do you think of it so far? Well, we now do actually have the end of the campaigns, and, you know, the campaigns for the most part were, for me personally, the Night Fae one was fine, because if you watch this channel before, you know I only have one character, so I'm not going to experience the other Covenants. I'm just not invested that much in wanting to find out how they're all working, especially the Kyrian, who cares about those guys. It is a bit of a stretch to call it a campaign, I would say. It was a selection of stories over the course of several weeks that didn't really have a connection to anything. You know, they're all involved with helping the Night Fae, but, you know, when I think of a campaign, I think of, you know, quite a long journey in a series that has an underlying theme in it, and that's not really what I got from this. But, as I say, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I hope there's more of it to come. It would be very sad if, you know, that was it. That's all the storytelling you're getting, and, you know, we're just going to move on to more dungeons and raids now. And more world quests. Please, I love those. In the balancing side of things, Blizzard did go out of their way to say that they weren't going to balance a great deal. They weren't going to make any radical changes, because, you know, they didn't want, because of the way they've constructed Con, so that this is a problem once again of their own making. They didn't want people to have their entire world turned upside down by massive buffs and nerfs. That said, they have done some massive buffs, but they were very much needed. Frost Mages and Assassination Rogues and Fury Warriors were standing out for all the wrong reasons in the raid tables, so they have been buffed by between 8 and 9%. So it'll be very interesting to see in the coming weeks, coming raids and in Mythic Plus, you know, whether or not we're going to get greater representation from those specific specs, because they, you know, two of them are pure damage classes, you know, as they were originally conceived. So it was very odd to see them down there at the bottom. So yes, it's a bit of good news there for some of our others. If you want more monk-specific news, we haven't had a lot of changes. We got a 2% buff to our two-handed weapons. In both Windwalker and Brewmaster. None of those really affect us at the moment, because by this stage you've probably got both of your one-handed weapons, and you've probably got them enchanted with stuff which will make them slightly better. So yeah, it doesn't really make much of a difference. This week's World Quest reward of 750 anima, very exciting, until, you know, it's kind of like doubling your anima for the week. You know, you're probably going to do 20 world quests. Those 20 world quests are probably going to average out at around 750 anima after 20 quests. So, I mean, yeah, it's done, but it's not as if anima is a resource that I personally am particularly low on at the moment. I think I'm sitting at like 24,000 anima, probably more by now. I really don't like weeklies that emphasize things that I don't particularly enjoy. And, you know, we had pet battles, and now world quests. You know, give us an extra incentive to do Mythic Plus, for example, because that still has a lot of problems. This week's affixes: tyrannical, as ever, raging. Bring some good DPS who know how to focus fire. Or if you are a DPS, remember to focus fire. Because this means that the mobs, once they get to 30%, will enrage and they'll do double the damage. So, you know, if you're just blindly AoEing, they're all going to enrage at the same time, and your tank is going to be... You won't be able to scrape them off the floor. There just won't be anything there. Explosive is fair enough. Target explosives, get rid of it. They nerfed, I think, the health value for the explosive, so you shouldn't have much of an issue there. And, of course, prideful. But, you know, the problems at the moment with Mythic Plus are not the affixes, it's the rewards. You know, you're still not making it worthwhile for people. And, you know, to a certain extent that's happening in raids as well. People aren't getting that many drops. And so there is a little bit of, like, gear acquisition frustration going on at the moment, that the Great Vault is not really offsetting all that much. I mean, my Great Vault this week was Stygia, because everything else was just not good enough. Torghast, it looks like they're experimenting at least with Torghast. So, I mean, sort of bringing in different events. This week we had an event where you could, if you so choose, you could go to the animal powers and you could get a pet. And it was all very exciting. Also, I click my pet, and this thing just runs off and it just aggroes everything I don't want to aggro. You know, even as a brewmaster, you know, I'm just breezing through. I'm Torghast at this stage. It's not really a challenge. It's one of those things you do at the start of the week to get it out of the way, claim your soul ash, and then not think about it again. And this pet would just run around, and it doesn't do a lot of damage. It pulled mobs I didn't want it to. I'm not using it again. So this is a pretty rubbish one for me. Torghast is not my favourite activity to start with, but it has been superseded by its tripling brother, Twisting Corridors. My goodness, what were they thinking there? When I thought of Twisting Corridors as a concept, I was thinking of, you know, the bridge in... Think! It's in BC. Serpentine Cavern. That's the bugger. You know the way the bridge pops up just before you go to the final boss? I thought that looked epic. I was thinking of something snaking like that with lots of obstacles, but it's just basically Torghast times 3 for 8 layers. And depending on your class and spec, that can take an awful long time to clear, and at the end of it, you get to do another level. Or if you really, and some people are dedicated enough, and credit to you, I'm not going past level 1, unless Bolvar tells me to go in there to progress the story. Because, you know, if you complete at level 8, then you get a mount that you can use in the Maw, which is another area which I have now completely finished up with, basically. I'm now appreciative with Venari. I've got all of her toys for Torghast and the Maw. There's not really much point in me going in there anymore, except for, you know, that 1.7% chance to get a mount that works in the Maw. Because that's the way I'm going. I'd rather take that 1.7% chance than, you know, spend a very, very large amount of time doing uber super Torghast for that reward at the end. It's just not worth my time at all. On to tank representation. I did have an article earlier last week about tank representation and how many people in Mythic plus level 15s and up are doing at the moment. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of Demon Hunter tanks out there because they are the meta, they are the best, and that is slightly problematic. So while I understand that Blizzard has this priority where we don't want to touch the classes too much, well, that does need a nerf. Because, you know, there are other tanks out there like me who would like to go. Now, I mean, on this thing, I think Brewmaster was second at about 17-18%, but, you know, Warrior representation was not even 3.5%, and you know, that's really not good enough. When you've got 6 tanks, you want to be able to balance them properly like that, and DKs have really taken a hit. I barely see any DKs these days anymore, whether they're DPS or they're tanks. The only tanks I do encounter from time to time tend to be extraordinarily squishy, and I don't think that tiny little buff they got to Bone Shield is really going to help them. So there is some work for Blizzard to do there. And so, you know, let's end on a slightly more positive note, because I know there hasn't been a lot of positivity in this one, and, you know, that's largely because I'm getting bored. I'm getting bored because I am exalted with all of the factions, I'm exalted with Funari. The only one I've got left is the Avowed, and their rewards are Venthyr only in some cases, so that's fairly pointless. Or there's a pet, not going to care, because, you know, I don't really like battle pets, and I don't really like PvP all that much, but maybe I'm just going to have to go and do PvP, because there's nothing left in the game for me to do. I mean, the raids, yes, they're fine. I have been enjoying the raiding. I have switched my role a little in there. I've become a Mistweaver. I mean, I wish you guys had talked to me about Mistweaver raid healing, because my goodness, that thing can pump it out. So I've only spent a few days just Mistweaving in the raids, because it was, you know, was a spot that we needed, and my god, powerful little things, Mistweavers, are getting under the radar a bit there, I think. Mistweaver is becoming an awful lot of fun. It's just that there doesn't seem to be anything else to do outside of the raid. I could work in my profession, but my profession is engineering. Most of that stuff is stuff that I can only use, that nobody else would want to use in the first place. I think I've sold a few Nutcracker grenades and the Phalanx pet a couple of times, but yeah, it's not a moneymaker and there's nothing left to work on there. I could do pet battles, or I could saw my own head off. Probably going with the latter on that one. Never been a fan of the pet battle thing. I guess, you know, apparently it's a viable gearing path to go from PvP. I haven't PvP'd since WoD. Probably not going to be very good at it, but it may be the only thing left to do. Because, you know, between the raiding spots, I don't have a lot. on my plate right now. And you know, this isn't a disadvantage of only having one character. Why don't you roll an alt? Yes, that sounds like fun. You know, go through, level another character, go through all the same stuff all over again, and you know, you'll come out the other end, still have nothing to do, because content isn't Blizzard's strong point right now. So, no, seriously, there are MMOs that do this a lot better. So yes, I'm feeling a bit meh at the moment about Shadowlands. You know, started strong, losing pace. Where's this patch? What has it got in it? Get me excited. There's a bit of gamer entitlement for you there to finish out. I've got another video coming up fairly shortly, which is really oceanic in focus, because it regards the state of our servers. And that's going to be another fairly unhappy one as well, so brace yourself for that. Yeah, I will be back relatively soon now that the house is painted. Yeah, just stick around there and keep the faith, and I will see you soon. But until then, I am the Conspicuous Moo, and a very good afternoon to you.